Political philosophy of Kant. In his political philosophy, Kant has propounded the idea of moral freedom, social contract, state, forms of government, individual rights and duties, and so on. Today, we are going to discuss the moral philosophy or the concept of moral philosophy given by Immanuel Kant. The concept of moral philosophy is central in the political philosophy of Kant. That's the political philosophy. The entire political philosophy of Kant revolves around the moral philosophy. While explaining the moral philosophy, Kant is saying that man has two types of reasons. First is the theoretical reason, and second is pure practical reason. The theoretical reason shows to the man the extraneous picture or extraneous shape of something. That is, a man can see see what a thing looks, because theoretical reason is based on sense perception and is limited to phenomena, and it cannot know reality as it is. So there is and beside that, there is difference between things as appear and as they are in reality. And human perception is different from qualities merely they do possess. So what a thing is in actual in reality is its appearance is different from that. And man's theoretical reason distort man towards the extraneous shape or the extraneous meaning of something, which is not the true meaning. The true meaning is something different. But man has a pure practical reason as well. And this pure practical reason enables somebody to discover reality, the actual meaning of something. And this true practical reason or pure practical reason enable men to know the reality, to know the actual meaning of something or the actual shape of something. But there's a huge problem. That's man is by nature being a phenomenal being, believe on the phenomenal world, and he is following theoretical reason. That's why he is getting astray from the actual reality. Man's nature has two sides. First is the empirical side, and then transcendental side. Empirical side or empirical self revolves around his sensual experience, his desires, and his impulses. That's why the imperial self makes him subject to things extraneous to its true self, while the transcendental self is moral and rational self and makes him to do what he ought to do, not what something look. So empirical self is based on sensual experience and his desires, impulses, while transcendental is not based on the sensual experience, his desires and his impulses, but it is based on reality. And the transcendental self is moral, and transcendental self is rational, and it makes somebody to do what he ought to do, not what seems to do, rather what ought to do. And this renders him subject to true self, which makes him parts of real world. And empirical self makes somebody not part of real world, because empirical self shows the extraneous shape and extraneous meaning of something. It is the transcendental self that shows the actual meaning. It's the based on the moral self, and this transcendental self makes somebody living in real world. In real world, one can enjoy freedom, and one can enjoy moral freedom and can become autonomous only by following transcendental self. Moral freedom lies in following moral laws, or acting in accordance to imperative duty. Man can perform his imperative duty not under impulsions of his desires and impulses, but in obedience to the law of true self, his moral wills, the good will, which alone is free and can give him moral freedom. So, if somebody wants to enjoy moral freedom, he has to follow the moral laws. And if he's not following moral laws, and if he's following his own impulses and desires and his bad wills, then he won't be able to enjoy moral freedom. And this moral freedom is actually true freedom. So if you want to enjoy true freedom, you have to follow moral freedom. So we can say now that if you want to follow true freedom, you have to follow moral laws. It's because true freedom is the moral freedom. And moral freedom can be achieved by following moral laws. So in nutshell, we can say that if you want to follow true freedom, you have to follow moral laws. And moral laws tells a man what he ought to do, irrespective of extraneous considerations. And it gives us a will because it is not based on desires and impulses. Moral laws are not based on desires and impulses, but moral laws are based on moral reason. That's man, sorry, man is truly free. Who that man, or we can say that man is truly free, who enjoys autonomy of moral will and moral freedom. And moral freedom is qualified by respect and controlled by universal law. Moral freedom cannot be observed by not respecting others. If you will not respect your fellow being, if you do not control yourself according to the universal law, then you won't be able to enjoy moral freedom, because in that sense you are not following moral law. And moral law is guided by imperative duty, and it makes an individual to act according to universal law, which makes an individual an end, not a mean to end. So moral law is the most important thing in this philosophy, because moral law helps you or make you to follow the moral freedom, and it makes you an end. That is the philosophy of Kant. If you remember in previous clip, we were saying that Kant believed that man is an end in itself, not a mean to an end. And if we want to make a man an end in itself rather than mean to an end, the man has to follow the moral laws. If he will become morally free, then we can say that man is an end in itself, not a mean to an end. And if man is not morally free, then man is not an end in itself, and he is subjected to number of things, and he become a mean to an end, or he loses his freedom and become a dependent. If he lose moral freedom, and moral freedom is the true freedom, and true freedom can be achieved by following moral laws. Kant interpreted freedom as a right to will, a self-imposed imperative duty. Individual freedom is not absolute. Individual freedom is conditioned by similar freedom of others. That is, if an individual is not ready to give similar freedom to his fellow being, he himself won't be able to enjoy the same freedom. True freedom is based on respect of universal laws and respect for rights and liberty of others. A will is free only when it wills rationally and in accordance with the interest of society. If a will is not in accordance with the interest of society, then that will is not free. A man is free if he acts in accordance with universal reason. If a man works according to universal reason, then he is free. On the contrary, if a man works according to his own impulses, or if a man acts according to his own bad ideas, he loses his freedom. and become dependent. So we can say that the philosophy of the Kant, or the moral philosophy of Kant, is saying that the moral freedom is the actual freedom, and if you want to achieve the moral freedom, you have to follow moral laws, because moral laws guide you to universal laws, and moral laws guide you towards the interest of society. And if you will follow those, you will be able to enjoy moral freedom, and moral freedom is the true freedom. If you are morally free, then you become an end in itself rather than mean to an end. Thank you for joining. Take care. Goodbye.